When you hear the words human resources, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's probably paperwork, payroll, maybe a kind of stuffy formal meeting. But you know what? That old personnel department image, it's a total relic. Today, managing people, human talent, is actually one of the most strategic and honestly exciting parts of any successful business. So let's just start with a number that shows you exactly how high the stakes have gotten. 80,000. What is that? Well, that is the number of new workers that Amazon had to hire in just a few weeks back in 2020. I mean, just stop and think about that challenge for a second. Finding, hiring, and training 80,000 people pretty much overnight. It's staggering. And this one number really shows you the massive scale and the absolutely critical importance of modern human resource management. So in this explainer, we're basically going to follow the journey of an employee through a modern company. First, we're going to look at the new strategic power of what's often called people ops. Then we'll get into how companies actually find the right people in the first place, how they develop that talent once they're on board, and finally, we are going to unpack the new rules that really define the relationship between you and your employer today. Okay, let's kick things off with that fundamental shift. Human resources is just no longer a support function that's kind of tucked away in a back office somewhere. No, it has become a strategic powerhouse, and it's absolutely central to a company's performance and its ability to compete. Now, the official definition of human resource management, or HRM, it sounds a little dry, right? A bit academic. But the core idea is actually super simple. It's all about designing the systems to attract, develop, and hang on to a talented workforce that can actually achieve the company's goals. So, what do the people at the top, the CEOs, think is the real secret to success? You might guess it's, I don't know, a better product, or maybe stronger customer loyalty. But check this out. When over 1,700 CEOs were asked what drives competitive success, a whopping 71% pointed to one thing: human capital. That's ranked higher than customer relationships and even higher than product innovation. Wild, right? So, what exactly is human capital? Well, it's the total economic value of a workforce's knowledge, its experience, its skills, all of it combined. The best way to think about it is like this: it's not the machines or the software or the buildings that give a company its edge, it's the people. This modern strategic way of thinking about HRM really boils down to three key ideas. First, it's not just the HR department's job anymore. All managers are involved in managing people. Second, employees are seen as valuable assets that you invest in, not just costs you try to minimize. And third, HRM is a matching process. It's about aligning the company's grand strategy with having the right people with the right skills at the right time. So if people are your single most important asset, how in the world do you find the right ones? Well, that brings us to the first huge goal of HRM, the modern talent hunt. Attracting an amazing workforce isn't about luck. It's a clear process. It starts with planning, figuring out what you need. Then you move into recruiting, getting a pool of candidates. Then you've got to select the absolute best fit. And finally, you welcome them into the organization so they can hit the ground running. The advertising legend David Ogilvy just nailed the whole idea of great hiring with this quote. It's not about finding people to work for you, it's about finding people who elevate the entire organization. The real goal is to build a company of giants. And let me tell you, the tools for finding those giants have evolved like crazy. The US Army, for example, now relies heavily on virtual recruiting stations. The media company IGN uses this really cool internship program called CodeFu to find raw talent. And other companies are using blind hiring to reduce bias, and even artificial intelligence, like IBM's Watson, to sort through millions of applications. And this gets to one of the biggest changes out there: the rise of blind hiring. The old way was all about the resume. Where'd you go to school? Who do you know? But the new way, used by firms like the Levinson Group, focuses only on what you can actually do. They once hired a recent grad with no marketing degree simply because her sample Instagram campaign completely blew away the competition. It's a total shift from pedigree to performance. So, have you ever been in an interview and been asked a question like this? Companies like Google and Microsoft are famous for using these brain teasers. And it's not because they're looking for one right answer. Nope. They want to see how you think, how you approach a weird problem, break it down, and communicate your thought process. Oh, and by the way, a round cover can't fall through its own opening. All right, so the company found the right people. The journey is not over. In fact, it's just getting started. The next crucial phase is developing their potential. This is where companies really truly invest in their human capital. And here's exactly why that investment is so necessary. When researchers analyzed thousands of job references, some of the most common areas that needed improvement weren't technical skills. They were soft skills, like confidence and communication. So training and development programs, they're designed to close these exact gaps. And this development can take a ton of different forms. You've got on-the-job training, which is kind of the classic apprenticeship model. There's social learning, where employees learn from each other, using things like internal blogs and wikis. And then you have full-blown corporate universities, like McDonald's famous Hamburger University, which has campuses from Moscow to Mumbai. Now, part of developing talent means you have to assess it. And this is an area that is going through an absolutely massive revolution right now. That thing we all dread, the annual performance review, it's being completely rethought. And the change it's profound. We're moving away from that old model, that once a year meeting, totally focused on judging what you did in the past. The new model is all about continuous, forward-looking feedback. It uses objective data to help you develop your skills for the future. It is a fundamental shift from grading to growing. All right, so let's get to the final section. And it might just be the biggest shift of all, the fundamental change in the relationship between companies and the people who work for them. The old promises are gone, and they've been replaced by a whole new set of rules. This big change is built on what people are calling a new social contract. See, the old deal was pretty simple. You give us your loyalty, and we'll give you job security for life. Well, that deal is basically broken. The new deal is all about employability. A company invests in your skills to make you more valuable in the job market. And in return, you take personal responsibility for your own career growth. And this completely transforms your role. Under the old contract, you were a loyal cog in the machine. But under the new one, you're more like a partner in the business. You're trading your skills not for a job for life, but for continuous employability that you can take anywhere. And if you want a really stark example of this new contract in action, just look at this number, 121,000. That was roughly the number of temps and contractors working at Google's parent company, Alphabet, back in 2019. Get this, they actually outnumbered the 102,000 full-time employees. This is the rise of the shadow workforce. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings captured this new philosophy perfectly when he said this. Think about it. A family implies unconditional belonging forever. But a team means you are there to perform at a high level, and you have your spot as long as you are the best person for that position. It's a professional, performance-based relationship. So all of this leads to a really fundamental question, one that every single one of us has to ask ourselves in the modern workforce. Are you an asset to be developed, or are you just a resource to be managed? How you answer that could very well define your entire career.